not a person who really pays attention to a lot of news. I might be late, maybe like a week or so late, but my mother watches the news. My grandmother watches the news. Coming from a small town, that's one of the things that I feel like is almost like a ritual in our household. So a lot of the information that I acquire actually comes through the eyes of two different black women before I get to it. And I can remember talking to my mother, just saying, oh my gosh, Kamala Harris is the new vice president. I said, well, they didn't win yet, did they? And my mom was like, no, but I mean, just imagine having like a black woman as a vice president. And my mom was so excited. That type of joy is contagious.
I'm rooting for her. I haven't heard the best responses when we all found out that she was going to be the candidate for vice president. I heard, oh, yeah, I'm excited. And I heard, oh, Lord. But I just pray that she doesn't lose her mind. They don't demean her because she's a black woman or feel like she doesn't know enough. Because I'm almost 100% positive they're going to do that or ask certain things and try to make her look like she's stupid because she's a black woman. So I'm hoping, I'm just hoping for the best for our country, for our black people, for all of the people. But I just hope that she powers through and pushes through because it can be some really cruel people in this world. And even in the White House, even, being around, the political people, like they're going to say some evil and mean things. And I'm just hoping that she keep her strength and be able to kind of just push that out the way and really focus on the end result, and that's her winning.
Kamala Harris is not the first black woman who had great political aspirations. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And our soror, Shirley Chisholm, actually ran for president back in the 70s. So it's important that we know our history before we really start to criticize any candidates and start to like comb through different situations and different people and understand like Kamala is not the first black woman who had political aspirations. I think that it's important for people to understand that politics is very dynamic. Just because you made certain decisions in the past, it does not necessarily mean that you're going to make those very same decisions once you get in a different position. So I think it's important for us to be hopeful. I think it's important for us to know what it is that we actually expect and to understand if these are realistic expectations to have from an individual. And these people are human. And the political system is just that. It's a system.
Because they're not going to only dive into your life as a politician. They're going to dig up, the middle school project that you did. And, when you push little Susie down on the playground in third grade, and they're going to somehow make some sort of connection to,
Now, something,
how you would be as a vice president. And it's just, it's pretty insane. How they sort of dissect and rip these candidates apart, whether I like them or not. That's a very tough spot to be in.
And I don't think enough people come to our defense when we need them. And right now, I believe that it's black women who are always coming to the defense to others. And we often will forgive people very easily for hurting us. Look at Jacob Blake's mom, for example. She spoke, and in her pain, she was trying to unify our nation. She was speaking life over a situation that was a bad situation. And I think that that's often what happens. Black women come to the rescue for everybody else. And when we need people, we don't have people often that advocate for us. And so we are advocating for ourselves, but we can't do it by ourselves. Look at Kamala Harris. People weren't going to vote for her for president, but they're more likely to look at her as a running mate for Joe Biden because of how she's going to be able to mobilize people, get people out there, fight on behalf of his cause, and fight for this ticket. That's an example to me of how Black women don't get the same just due. We don't get what we're deserving of. No matter how hard we work, how hard we fight, we're still going to be a Black woman.
As a mother of 2 Black boys, I'm concerned that we just touched the tip of the iceberg, and that true change, is going to take another lifetime to come. We've been seeing some changes and, police being arrested and, white people. I've had a white friend that texted me and said, I want you to know I stand with you. I will use my power to defend you. And in my mind, I said, will you do it at work? Will you do it when it could cost you your job? Will you do it when it hurts your family? Will you do it more than just on social media and just being a hashtag Black Lives Matter?
One day my son was going to school, and he actually did have on a hoodie. He had on a hoodie and he had it over his head. And I looked at him, and it was like I saw Trayvon Martin in my son's face. And it made me just start to get really, really emotional. And my son goes, well, what's wrong, Mommy? And I said, take your hood off. And it was a cold day. He was waiting on the bus stop, and he took his hood off. And he often says, Mommy, why do I have to dress so snazzy for school? And everybody else is just wearing X, Y, and Z, but especially at the beginning of the school year, I make my son wear a polo shirt, a collared shirt, and khaki shorts or khaki pants, because I want his teachers to know that he's not just a little Black boy, that he is an intelligent student. I make it a point to go to the school, or in this case, communicate with the teachers so that they know that my son is going to have access to all of the resources, not just the resources that they deem appropriate for Black boys. When white parents are teaching their children about financial planning, we have to teach our children how to have conversations to stay alive. It's not okay. And it breaks my heart, because I don't want my son to live in fear. I don't want him to be fearful, because he works hard and, he does the things that he was told to do. Go to school, get a good education, get a good job, buy a nice car, live in a nice home. But going to his home, depending on what neighborhood he's in, he might get stopped because he has this type of car. It's not okay.
One of the things that in my study and review of what happens and what has been happening for the last couple of decades is something drastic happens. Someone's killed, someone's wrongfully accused or prosecuted, and there's a whole bunch of media. There's a media cycle, and people talking, and people are protesting, but before you know it, it just dies down until the next atrocity happens. So the challenge that we have now is to do exactly that. We must keep the conversation going. We must keep the protest going. We must keep the dialogue going. But the way that we change it is through legislation. Because what happened with George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, he was allowed to do that because the law said that he could. So we have to make sure that the laws are changed, because just because we do something legal doesn't make it right. Plessy versus Ferguson was legal, but it didn't make it right. Stand Your Ground was legal, but it didn't make it right. So the way that we affect change and real change is what I said earlier, There has to be a changing of the guard. Everybody can't be a rapper. Everybody can't be a movie star. Everybody can't be a model. We need somebody to be politicians. We need someone to be judges, because the court system is where we have our biggest battles. So we have to train our children. I need you to go to law school. I need you to become a doctor. Our healthcare system is impacted. We don't have enough black doctors. Our court systems are impacted. We don't have enough black attorneys or judges. Our politics are impacted. Obviously, we don't have enough of us that are representing our interests. So where we change, number one, is in our home. We change our mindset to tell our children that we are the change that we can seek. And stop telling them that they want to be a police officer. No, you want to be a judge. You don't want to be a worker. You don't want to be a consumer. You want to be a leader. So it first starts in our mind. And it starts with passing on to the next generation and empowering them to be what we need in our community. To empower them not to go work for somebody, but to create your own. It starts in the mind, it starts in our homes, and it starts in legislation. But we can't change legislation until we have the people in place that represent our interests.
It has to change when our white counterparts start to advocate and stop turning a blind eye. And yes, for many years, there were people who were white who didn't have, it wasn't on their radar. It didn't, even though it's been going on and we've known about it for years, it wasn't in the public, perception, in the public view as much as it is lately. So now that you know it's happening, you have to do something to make a change. We have to hold law enforcement officers accountable. We can no longer just shoot first and ask questions later. And it starts with our, the people who are running the country. It starts with having, first of all, we have to have a different administration, because from the top down, the president doesn't care about Black lives, and many people don't care about Black lives. And the fact that people get upset when you say Black lives matter, that's a problem. Because yes, all lives matter, but right now, Black lives are what are very, very critical, because we're dying every day.
Those that really have a heart for change will do it if nobody pays them. Will do it if they're never acknowledged. Will do it scared. Will do it when it hurts. We have to be willing to live and die for the things we believe in. It's a lot, though. It's a big sacrifice to be a John Lewis and say, I'll go to jail for it. Your legacy is what you do now. You create, you have the pen to write your story. You are the one that can write the story that's going to be told about you. And making sure it's a good story is your job right now.
I go out of my way to seek out Black business owners, Black vendors, Black, professionals to give our community a name. Mm-hmm. So many other cultures, races, whatever, have profited off of us and what's true to us, and taking all of the credit, and we have to take our name back. We have to get our fight back. We have to support each other. We have to have each other's back. We have to look out for each other, because if we don't, the man ain't gonna do it. The man is not going to do it. We gotta support each other.
Keep your money with us. Quit supporting all these people who don't give a damn about you. All these designer labels and all, they don't care about you. They care about that money.
So not just do we need to have, better police training, but we need to start from the basics, and we need to provide quality education for all students, regardless of their zip code. Because with education and access, that is how children are going to become better members and more productive members of society. If they're not taught, if they don't have access, if all I see in my community is the only person that's successful in the community is a drug dealer or an athlete, that is all I aspire to be. But if I have somebody who comes into the community who may not look like me, go into these communities, and it's harder now that we have COVID, but do make a difference. I'm talking to white counterparts. I'm talking to everybody. If whether you're black, you go back to where you came from. If you came from a neighborhood that is not thriving, go back and pay it forward. You have to give back. The only way that I have been able to be successful is because of the people who paved the way for me. And I feel a responsibility to go back and do something for somebody else, because nothing is going to change with law enforcement and black men being shot until we actually recognize the problem is way bigger than that. And when we start at the root of the problem and provide quality education, quality affordable housing, and opportunities, job opportunities, then things will change. But it requires not just the black community, it requires everybody to be engaged and to really have a commitment and make this something that is a priority.
Now, this is what you've been waiting for. The conversation is here. They want to know the truth, and it's our time to speak our truth. And so now is not the time to be afraid. Now is not the time to shrink from your responsibility. Now is not the time to worry about losing something, because if you're worried about losing something, the question is, what do you really have? So what's taking place now is our opportunity to shift into the next dimension where we take our rightful place, which is in places of leadership in every area of society, in academia, in the church, in businesses, in politics, in all of these areas. And so now again, it's not the time to shrink from responsibility, but it's our time to walk in our promise.